So we have picked up the pieces here with the Rodgers injury, right? And then last night we got an IG post from Aaron Rodgers. And yeah, it's funny because the one thing we didn't really process because it was so raw and so fresh and we were worried about the now and the immediacy of Zach and obviously everything going on with that we didn't really delve very deeply at all into whether or not Aaron Rodgers is going to really try to attempt to come back at some point next year. And he said that he's going to, which is awesome. Now, listen, I'm not going to waste anybody's time for next year. That is next year, week 2 coming up, Dallas. It's so early this year. I can't worry about next year now. But I got to tell you what, and maybe this is unfair to Aaron Rodgers, and it's not my intention because, God, I'm heartbroken for him and for us.
Right.
But everything that he said over really the moment he came in, right? Everything that he said, he's all in, saying the right thing. I love Zach. I want to support Zach. I want Zach to be the guy when I'm gone. Listen, Aaron, once the swelling is gone, once the surgery is over, I expect Aaron Rodgers to be at the Jets facility every meeting, still a part of the team, on game day, on crutches, sitting next to Zach, and helping Zach Wilson.
You know, I'm heartbroken, BT, for Aaron Rodgers. We talked about that over the last few days, and then you saw it in the post how heartbroken he is, which you knew he would be. But I got news for you. After that post, that's it now. It is not about Aaron Rodgers anymore. The same way that I would fight off callers when they're worried about, Zach Wilson. I'm like, it's not about Zach Wilson. It's about Aaron Rodgers. Once Aaron Rodgers came here, it wasn't about anything else. It was about Aaron Rodgers. Well, now Aaron Rodgers is gone. Next year's a different story. And I got news for you, too. The best case scenario for the New York Jets, and I love Aaron Rodgers, but the best case scenario for the New York Jets is that Aaron Rodgers never takes another snap as a member of the Jets. This now is about Zach Wilson. That's it. It's not about Rodgers anymore. There's nothing he can do. He was brought here to throw the football for the New York Jets. He's not able to do that physically anymore, so he is now out of the equation. It's about Zach Wilson. As hard as that is to fathom, that's where we're at. It's about Zach Wilson, Robert Saleh, and the New York Jets without Aaron Rodgers.
So you don't want to see him on the sidelines? You don't think there's value with him being a bit of a liaison? I mean, Hackett's his boy, and obviously Zach is young and impressionable, and Rodgers and Zach have this great relationship. You don't think that it would serve the Jets and behoove certainly the growth of Zach Wilson to have Rodgers there? Remember the Hard Knocks clip? Remember the bomb he threw in the Browns game? Aaron Rodgers was basically the one who said, let's dial this thing up. I want to see, I do agree with this. I don't want to see Aaron Rodgers stories like the Post and all the shows. I don't need that.
I mean, it's never ending. It's over with Rodgers. It's over. It's not about him right now.
But it shouldn't be over to the point where he's invisible. Otherwise, and again, I straddle the line of being unfair, but I'm going to say it like then kind of everything that Aaron Rodgers espoused from the moment that he walked in the building and tried to change the identity of the Jets, to me, it's lost. It seems very baseless and hollow. You're hurt, but you're not dead.
I'm sure he's going to text with Zach Wilson or call Zach. He's not a coach. Rodgers can't do what he was brought here to do, play quarterback. He's not a coach. He's not an assistant. He's not an offensive coordinator. He's not going to be calling plays. And by the way, he couldn't even call the plays that he wanted to call because they didn't agree with the
himself?
Yeah, really. They had a different scheme there anyway. So I'm not saying Rodgers can't be a friend. He can't be there for advice. Rodgers is going through his own thing right now. He's not focused on coaching Zach Wilson and the Jets. He's going to be focused on rehabbing so he can rise again next year, which is why I'm saying it's not about him. Go get a backup quarterback, put the coaching staff around Zach, whatever you need to do. Get a veteran backup in there. I told you who I want, Matt Ryan. I think he could provide the stuff that you're maybe looking for Rodgers to provide. It's not about Rodgers anymore. And again, I say this without trying to be overly critical because I truly do love everything about Aaron Rodgers. Off the field, on the field, I love it. It would be best for the New York Jets if we never saw Aaron Rodgers again. That would mean that Zach Wilson's the guy and you could move forward with him as opposed to relying on a guy coming back off a torn Achilles at 40 years of age after taking 4 snaps the year before. You need to rely. You better hope if you're the Jets it works out with Zach Wilson and you never see Rodgers again.
877-337-6666. Good morning, everybody. BT and Sal on the Fan. We will get to these calls, and I mean, it's almost a bit of a separate issue, but the timing of the injury. See, this is what's incredibly fascinating. Now, many of you think that Zach Wilson is about to bomb. I am not many of you. I think Zach's going to play. I'm not saying that he's going to just, throw for 313 against Dallas. He's probably going to get, knocked around a little bit against that defense, and it's going to take a little bit to get going. But I do think when it's all said and done, I'm on the record, I think the Jets are a playoff team. But because Aaron Rodgers, and it's a devastating injury, it's a year, basically a year. But because it happened when it happened, he should, if he wants to play, and based on the IG post, he wants to play next year, he's going to be ready for maybe not day one of training camp, but August 1st-ish. Aaron Rodgers is going to be physically ready to play.
But wouldn't you be worried?
But think about this. Like, imagine if Zach plays good, but not lights out. Is there actually a training camp battle? I mean, what do you do?
See, to me, a decision will be made definitively this year on Zach Wilson. There was this thought that if Rodgers was here, he's going to play for 2 years. Wilson's going to sit under him for 2 years because what are you going to do? And then you would have to make a decision with the 5th year, right? Do you pick up the option? Do you let him hit free agency? Obviously, you'd let him hit free agency and then maybe bring him back if you believe in him to eventually take over from Rodgers. Like, that was the plan. Well, now that plan has been blown up, and we will find out about Zach Wilson one way or another. I don't think there's a scenario where this season plays out however it does, and then Rodgers comes back and Wilson is benched. It's either going to be Wilson is no longer a part of the equation or Wilson is the guy. And that may be a tough pill to swallow for Rodgers, but that's why I'm saying, like, unfortunately, Jeff fans, this is not about Rodgers anymore. It's all about Zach Wilson. It's the Zach Wilson show, good or bad, success or fail. This is about Zach Wilson even moving ahead to next year when Rodgers does come back healthy. You know he's going to want to play.
Yep.
But he may not have a spot.
Yeah. Well,
now, I know the odds are not in Wilson's favor, but the reality is, best case, it would be that Rodgers doesn't have a spot.
Okay. Again, as we said, those are two separate issues here. To me, and again, I don't know when the surgery is. It's a fairly invasive procedure. He's going to be jacked up for a while. Whenever Aaron Rodgers feels comfortable hopping around on crutches and the Jets send him a car because he can't drive and he makes it out to Florham Park, excuse me, and he feels physically and mentally up to it, I expect Aaron Rodgers to be at every meeting. I expect when Zach Wilson throws a pick in October, I expect to see Rodgers on the bench with the tablet pointing to stuff.
Isn't it
like, is that
undermining the
unrealistic
coaches?
on my part?
I think it might be. I mean, what's normal protocol? Don't people who are or athletes who are injured get told to stay away for the most part? You're not going to be down on the field.
It depends. It does depend. It depends.
And not only that, PT, like, well, what's Nathaniel Hackett's purpose then? He should be the one. Like, Rodgers is now out of the equation. He wasn't brought here to be a coach. He was brought here to play. A mentor, yes, but while playing. Like, there are certain things you could talk about on the bench while playing. And I guarantee you this, and I don't know this, I shouldn't guarantee it, but I don't believe Rodgers is right now interested in coaching or mentoring. He wants to work his way back to playing. Is that going to be being out there every Sunday, coaching along Zach Wilson when he makes a mistake? No, they got people there for that. That's Robert Saleh's job. That's Hackett's job. That's whoever the backup quarterback's job is, which is why I think they need a veteran quarterback. But I wouldn't. Like, I get wanting to see Rodgers. I wouldn't make it about him, and I don't think that's really going to add any value at this point.
Okay. All right, let's get to you guys here. Again, BT and Sound on the Fan, 877-337-6666. And me, I'm going to take 10, 12, 15% of Rodgers, the mental aspect over none. But, I don't agree with you, but I hear you, Sal. James in North Arlington. James, first up on the Fan. What's happening, buddy?
Well, I'm happy calling on me for the beginning of the show. That's actually a real honor. I happen to agree a lot with your take, but mostly the fact that he came out and said that they weren't even doing what he wanted them to do only goes to show there's got to be some big deficiency in the Jets coaching staff, and they need Rodgers, maybe in some ways, to rein that in. Because if they couldn't call the right blocking schemes for him, what in the world are they going to do for Zach Wilson?
Well, but there's a little difference there. And listen, I think there's a little confusion with this, James. I hear you. Thanks for the first call. Get us going. It's most of you know this, but all of you need to know this. It wasn't a difference of what play to call. It was merely the blocking scheme. Chop somebody, get them down so they can't get their hands up to tip a pass, and obviously the play unfolds fast, get it in the flats. There's one guy on the ground, and just run through an arm tackle. So that's why they're doing that. Now, Rodgers, his best work generally comes as he's able to manipulate the field with his eyes and almost coerce something that is not originally there. That is not Zach Wilson's strength. That is when Zach Wilson implodes. So really while I can understand Rodgers' aversion, that sounds so weird, Rodgers' aversion to that blocking scheme, Zach is not going to have an issue with it because he's Zach Wilson, not Aaron Rodgers.
Yeah, and Rodgers never came out and said they were calling the wrong plays. It was reported that Rodgers wasn't a fan of that blocking scheme. That's it. And then obviously he gets hurt on one of the plays that involved that blocking scheme, so now it becomes a little bit of a story, which doesn't make to me, it just doesn't make sense why the Jets wouldn't be listening to Rodgers. But that's a different thing than what we're talking about here. It's not about Aaron Rodgers anymore. Jet fans need to let it go. I mean, BT, you went on your rant the other day. We heard from Benengo. We've heard from positive Jet fans here looking to put this, move ahead here with this team and still have the playoff aspirations and all that. Rodgers needs to be now put in the rearview mirror. I love him. I love the post. I'm heartbroken for him. I love to see him personally work his way back. He has said he will rise again.
Yep.
That means he's not retiring. He wants to go out there and play. Best case scenario is he never plays for the Jets. It's got to be about Zach Wilson. And right now, it is the Zach Wilson show. Rodgers is irrelevant with the Jets this year.
I want to go back to something you just said, though. We'll get back to these calls. You just said that Rodgers needs to be put in the rearview window, right? In the rearview mirror. Mm-hmm. So I do agree for us. Like, at this point forward, once we finalize the grieving and the realization of what's happened and all that, like eventually soon, really, I think starting tomorrow, the Rodgers conversation is over for us.
Right.
And it's got to be over from I think everybody outside of the building. Like, we can move on and we could get on with the season. I still think the guy's an asset. I think he's one of the most cerebral, most intelligent minds to ever play the position. It extrapolates some value from that. He loves Zach. Right, Zach loves him. That's an asset. Right,
but why not? Why does it have to be on the field? And by the way, I don't think it will be. Now, I don't know this. Maybe you know more in tune with the Jets and what they're thinking is going to be moving forward, whether Rodgers is going to be involved being, at the games, whether it's in the press box or whatever, or behind the scenes. But he's already established a relationship with Wilson. I'm sure he's going to be calling him and texting him and going over things like that on occasion. But right now, Rodgers has got to repair himself, and the Jets need to figure it out. Zach Wilson can't just be relying on Rodgers this whole time. He's got to go out there, listen to the coaches, and go out there and do it. But I agree with you that this is it for the Rodgers conversation. I don't want to hear tomorrow. I don't want to hear next week, whether he's there or not. Oh, Rodgers isn't on the sideline, and this is a problem. And it's not about Aaron Rodgers anymore. It's painful. It sucks, but it is not about him at this point anymore.
How about Brian in Howell, New Jersey, up next on The Fan with BT and Sal? What's going on, Brian? How are you?
BT, Sal, what's going on, boys?
What's happening, buddy?
All right, so I have a scenario for you. If Zach down in Dallas this week is anemic offensively, they can't put up any points at all, do we consider making a trade or trying to get Matt Stafford from the Rams?
I'm not doing it yet. First of all, I'm not really interested in giving the Rams a first-round pick for Matthew Stafford since the Packers are already getting a second-round pick. Number one. Number two, I think your timeline needs to be adjusted because I don't think as a matter of fact, I know this, that under no circumstances right now are the Jets looking at Zach as a week-to-week proposition. Now, they might not roll with him for 17 weeks if it skids off the rails that it's awful, or 16 more games. They are giving him a legitimate runway to prove himself either positively or negatively, and it doesn't end with the Cowboys game, no matter how bad he could be.
If they were going to make a decision of that magnitude as far as being worried about Zach Wilson not being capable as the backup, it should have been done in the offseason. That's why this is about Zach Wilson, not about, oh, my God, Rodgers is down. I'm in shock that a 40-year-old is out. This was structured this way purposely. So it can't be we lose Rodgers, let's ignore Zach Wilson and pivot to Matthew Stafford. That's why I'm saying they need to bring up a backup quarterback. This is the Zach Wilson show now. Accept it. Accept it. It's Wilson's show. Good or bad, it's his. This is his team right now.
That's an outstanding point, though, about what the Jets are thinking, and we'll see how consistent they are. Okay, think about this. So the Jets on every conceivable level, whether not just Rodgers, Dwayne Brown, 38. I mean, they're all in. This at the start of the season, the start of the offseason, all in championship push. Here's our chips. Take a pick, Green Bay. The money, the this, the that. We got it. We're going for it. Now, it was. And I said this a couple times. I didn't really go to it too aggressively because I didn't think that Rodgers would get hurt right away.
Right.
So I didn't really feel the need to, beat that to a bloody pulp. But the fact that the Jets on an all-in season, they're not dumb, all right? They knew that they were one injury away, catastrophic injury to Rodgers, to Wilson having to carry the mail for the duration of this all-in season, all right? So they entered the season with Rodgers and then Zach and then Timmy Boyle, who's buddies and who's actually well received in the building. He has a good arm, but like if they started the season that way, it makes zero sense now to go out and make some crazy trade, because if that's the case, why the hell did you entrust him as the backup if something catastrophic happened? It's wildly inconsistent. So they're telling you they do believe in Zach.
Right, and I had no problem with that theory. You need to find out what Zach Wilson... Now, I wasn't anticipating a week one season-ending injury. Like, you could tell me that Rodgers is going to get hurt and miss 5-6 weeks, and that would have been bad enough.
That would have been bad enough. That's true.
But
hamstring,
four
groin,
snaps,
calf.
Right. Whatever, right? Ankle, whatever it is. Like, if he missed 6-7 games, you'd be like, oh, crap, here we go. Buckle up for the Zach Wilson ride over the next 6 weeks. Week 1, 4 snaps in, like, that's hard to think. So while they believed in him, I don't think that they ever thought that this would be the scenario. Like, this is absolute worst case scenario, and now it is Zach Wilson's time to go out there and get somebody else. It just doesn't right now of that magnitude. Go get a backup. Yes, like that should be happening now.
They're working on it. They're working on it.
Okay, well that should be going on. They actually need another quarterback anyway.
Yes,
but it's got to be the right one.